My name's Paul McMahon, and I run a company with two other people. We're doing software development, making web services, and then also doing consulting about Japanese mobile phones.
All right, so the first question, why did you attend this startup weekend, and what is your expectations out of it?
I attended this startup weekend because since a couple weeks ago I've been thinking about this issue Japan has, which is basically how students find jobs. In Japan, people start looking for a job from third year of university. And when I first heard about that as a Canadian, it sounded very strange because normally in Canada, we don't choose our job till right around when we graduate. And then even if we graduate and don't find a job yet, it's not a big deal. But in Japan, there's this system here. If you don't find a job by the time you graduate, you're basically screwed. So I was wondering how I can change this. So I'm not Japanese, so I thought if I come to Startup Weekend, I can meet some similar people who might have similar ideas, and maybe they can help me change this.
Okay, could you tell us about your current working style and your ideal working style?
My current working style is kind of my ideal working style. As I'm doing my own company right now, I get to choose how I work. And that's basically pretty free. We don't really have fixed hours. I go into the office normally around 10 o'clock, and then I do whatever needs to be done. And sometimes we have client work with deadlines, and then I have to work harder, but then other times when projects aren't so busy, then I can take off early or whatever. So it's a very flexible way of working.
So do you prefer that kind of working style over working for some big company?
I've never had an experience of working for a big company. Previous to this company, I was working for a Japanese company that had about 40 employees, but I was working in the development department, and we were mostly foreigner there. And it had a similarly relaxed working environment there. So I've never really felt like I've worked at a big company before, but it's not something that I have such a good image of.
Understood. Okay, so you already have the perfect working style. Do you think people around you have that?
People around me?
Yeah, your friends.
Okay, I guess no. I think typically in Japan, people have not such a good working style. I mean, the common issue or complaint people have is lots of overtime in Japan and pointless overtime, and that a lot of it is more focused on appearance than actual results here. So.
Okay, what do you think? Why did they choose to do that? Do you think what is the biggest hurdle for them actually to get kind of an ideal working style?
I think basically one issue is Japanese culture is it's quite a collectivist society, which has a lot of good points, but at the same time it doesn't allow for so much individualism or freedom. And so I think, for example, with the overtime example, it's hard for me to decide, I'm done my job, I'm done everything, so I'll go home despite the other people who maybe haven't finished what they've had to do yet. So I think because people are always thinking about the group and what other people around them think, that makes it hard for them to adopt their own working styles.
So it's kind of cultural?
I think there is a cultural issue there that makes it harder for people to change. I mean, then the change maybe has to come more from above or something. It's very hard for someone just by themselves to say, I'm going to change how I work.
So for you, like you have the ideal working style, right? You achieved it. Like you're trying to, like you are working for your own company.
Yeah.
So you have your, like you can manage your time.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So what would be like, is there, I mean, like, is there any like uncertainty or like, something like that that would like, make you sometimes feel like, oh, I'm a bit...
Well, yeah, I guess that is the trade-off. If you're doing your own company, then you do have a lot more uncertainty, and that's the first thing I think you have to accept when you're starting up a new business or whatever, that you don't know the future and you don't have stability. So that's the trade-off, that if you're working for another company, you might not have so much freedom, but you do have stability.
So it's just a matter of choice, do you think?
Yeah, I think basically as an individual you have to look what is important to you.
Do you have any role model?
Role model? I wouldn't say I have someone who I would call a role model per se, but companies that I admire. I'm doing software development, so in the US there's a company called 37 Signals, and another one called GitHub, and I think these companies have a good culture internally. I think they're focusing a lot on individuals taking independence with how they work, and basically people by themselves trying to improve themselves.
Okay, if you have any chance, who would you like to direct these questions to? You can pick anyone.
Who would I like to direct these questions to?
Ideal working style. I guess you already achieved it, so I don't think you want to ask these questions, but let's say assume that you want to.
Well, I think maybe it would be hard to say I have the ideal working style, because I think one thing is there's always room to improve. So I'd like to talk more with other people who are doing their own company and working kind of freely, working maybe similar how I'm working, and then basically how I can learn from them and improve how I work.